Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tokyo on Fire. Today is October 27th, 2016. The LDP escaped a bullet this last weekend in 2 by-elections, Michael. This is pretty big news.
Well, it's big news in that they got past what was looking like a really embarrassing, possibly embarrassing situation, where the LDP, because of internal dissension, would blow it and hand over 2 of its own seats.
In both constituencies.
In both the constituencies, the Tokyo, the District 10 and the Fukuoka District 6, that in what should be shoe-in by-elections, that they would blow it because they could not agree properly on a proper LDP candidate, a single one. They managed to dodge a bullet in both cases. They're probably breathing sighs of relief. The onus is now on the Democratic Party, which was supposedly gifted this situation in both districts of LDP in disarray, and couldn't take advantage of it.
We talked about this last week. We spent a bit of time lining up the election, and now the election has been had, and there are a lot of things that we can learn from how the Democratic Party followed through on this, and also how Ms. Koike maneuvered her candidate to win by a significant margin.
Well, let's talk first about the DP and what falls out. True to what we would normally predict is that when turnout is low, the DP craters. And that's exactly what happened in both cases.
Not because of rain.
Not because of rain. They had good weather. They had time to prepare, all these things. Nevertheless, voters did not show up.
They weren't motivated.
They weren't motivated by a disorganized and wild race, which normally tends to kick up participation. In both cases, record low voting rates, which anybody who does politics should immediately say, well, then the DP is going to lose. And they did.
Right.
And it made it look as though the LDP candidate won in a landslide. Well, no.
They just didn't lose.
They didn't lose.
Right.
And they didn't lose, and they got a lot of votes, but they're machine votes. Those people would show up no matter what. It was the non-aligned voter was not excited by the race and didn't show up. So DP lost. For the new head of the DP, Ren Ho, of course it's an embarrassment, but they didn't put a lot of energy into it. They, in fact, they didn't actually know what they were going to do with those particular seats. And that was particularly painful in terms of figuring out how to work on the 4-party alliance.
It really kind of was a test. I mean, it's a follow-up test. They did this in Niigata. They came out okay.
Yeah, but they did a complete 180 on this one. They went from complete unified alliance, we're all in on it, we're all in favor of the candidate, to, in the case of these 2 by-elections, they said, okay, you and the other 3 parties don't run your own candidates.
You guys hold off.
You hold off, and we won't invite you to any of our campaign rallies.
Thank you for the offer for the endorsement, but we're okay.
We're okay, we're cool. And you can endorse if you want, but don't show up at our rallies, and we won't show up at yours. And the term that came out of it was chuto hampa, half-assed cooperation. And that's a technical term, half-assed. And that is exactly not the way that the House of Councilors was run. That's not the way the Niigata election was won. And in both those cases, the strategy worked. Now, whether Renho's enemies, well, actually, who are enemies of her Secretary General, Noda Yoshihiko,
internal
enemies. Her frenemies.
Right.
Try to work on this, and by doing so, weaken the DP in the run-up to the next elections.
They just don't have much time. I mean, they should have gotten their S together, because this was a trial for them, and a snap election could happen within the next 90 days.
If the Secretariat of the DP does get its act together, it can argue against the conservatives in the party, look, we did it your way. We did it, we were standoffish towards the communists, because we didn't want to be associated with them, and we got absolutely kicked in the butt. If we want to be competitive right now, we have to work totally through the alliance. Now, whether that will indeed fly internally within the DP is a question that's up in the air. But definitely they can make that case at least, because they did get their butts kicked in this election.
Ren Ho is still safe, though, wouldn't you say?
I would say so, but then we have the issue of Koike.
Right.
And She comes out of this with tremendous momentum. She drags her candidate into the position in the Tokyo 10 electoral district, who himself ran against the LDP as an LDP member. And now she's got a whole new ballgame. In addition to winning the governorship, she's now looking like a party leader.
Right. She actually announced she's going to have a school for diplomacy and public policy.
And it's going to open by the end of the month, but before Halloween, or maybe even on Halloween. And it's got 4,000 plus applicants already, who, if there are more than 4,000 people who want to pay you money, that means you have the nexus, you have the central core of a party. And certainly a lot of those applicants are people who are looking at least at running as members of a party that's going to put candidates in the local party election, the local assembly elections in the spring, but maybe even into a called election, general election in January.
Yes.
So this is snowballing for her.
No, it's snowballing in a very good way. Not part of this segment, but also with regard to the Olympics and the parceling out of Olympic sports sites, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
She's juggling so many different things right now. Koike is. First, she's got the Toyosu Tsukiji problem, which we've talked about on this program.
And she's got everybody back on their heels, the people that were involved in it.
And
rightly
the bureaucracy and former governors, they're all backpedaling. Now she's got her new juku, her school for politics. And then in the center of it, she has, she's basically dictating to the International Olympic Committee, we're going to do this and we're not going to do that. And the International Olympic Committee itself is back on its heels. What are we going to do about this person who had nothing to do with the process, who has no idea of how we came to where we are, and is now reneging on every single promise that the candidate city, Tokyo, made?
Well, they had a big forum. This is going off subject, but they had a big forum just last week, and my interpretation was that they were welcoming this kind of revisit because it looks like they were hoodwinked.
Well, they were certainly hoodwinked, but they're always hoodwinked. They are serially being fooled by various committees that present them with bids. Certainly in the case of Sochi, certainly in the case of Athens, the bids were completely off kilter and had nothing to do with the actual costs of what was going down.
Easy pickings.
They're easy to fool.
Okay, but she's on a roll, isn't she?
She's on a roll, and the thing is, they don't know how to adjust to that. They want to have their own kind of Olympics with their own kind of rules, and they're an international organization that is simply most of the time running rampant and just amok and gets to do whatever it wants. With her, however, she has basically has them in shackles, and she can dictate to them. Now, they're throwing out all kinds of crazy ideas, including taking events out of the country.
To Seoul. Not to Seoul, but to South Korea.
But to South Korea. That's in the latest, I mean, in terms of messaging, it's brilliant.
It's that bad.
Yeah,
yes.
You guys are so out of unprepared and so unwilling to spend money. We'll give it to the Koreans. Oh man, you want to
push the pendulum to the other side? That's a good way.
It's a great way of doing it, and they certainly have. They've forced a little bit of Tokyo. Wait! You can't do that.
Right.
We were thinking of sending the rowing events up north to Miyagi and cloaking it in the part. I've always hated this as a part of the bid, that it's for the renewal and the revival of the Tohoku region. It's a Tokyo Olympics, let's be real. But now if we send a lot of events up there, yes, it is true. But the Olympic Committee has immediately tried to shut that down.
Well, Tokyo won the bid because they promised, they committed to having a rather compact Olympics
Physically compact,
centered around the Tokyo harbor.
Yeah, and
5-mile radius.
And no kidding, if you're going to hold an Olympics in a place which has some of the highest real estate values in the world, it's going to cost you. And if you have some of the highest labor costs in the world, it's going to cost you. It's the price of doing business. And yet Koike coming in has this idea, and maybe it's good populist thinking, but it's not terribly good, I think, in the long term. That we won't do this. No, we won't do that. We won't spend this money. We don't spend that money because, well, I'm sorry, but this is one of the wealthiest cities in the world,
right?
And it committed to holding the Olympics, and whatever it costs is what it costs,
right? Well, even the IOC president said that this is an opportunity for Japan to show magnificence, and that's what happened in the '64 Olympics. Japan leaped into the 21st century, and the ability of the Olympics, because of the television and the broadcasting and buying televisions and that sort of thing, it really engaged the Japanese economy to take off into the incredible bubble that it eventually ended, 20 years ago.
Well, the thing is that you touch upon the most important part, because in that there is the competition between Tokyo and the IOC is a sideshow. The real show is between the national government and the Tokyo government,
right,
and how much Tokyo can charge to the national government, and how much the dynamic between Koike and Prime Minister Abe is played upon.
Right.
Abe and Koike both appeared together
as friends,
as friends,
sure,
and work. And since they are both longtime hardcore nationalists, they have a similar base. She is, however, presenting a challenge to him and to the LDP with this new party. Of course, the people who will suffer the most is the DP, as they suffered when Hashimoto Toru created his innovation party in 2012. It's very much the same story, that there's an outsider who is charismatic, conservative, hard on the teachers union, etc. Hard with strong anti-foreign elements, if not anti-foreign views. We've seen this before, and it can have, at least for one election, a huge impact. I mean, the numbers when the first time that Hashimoto Toru took his movement national, the LDP got 16 million votes, but Innovation got 12, and then the DPJ at the time got 8 million in the national election in 2012. So she can, in very short time, post a challenge, right, that can really shake up the entire political scene.
Right. Well, I think those numbers tell you that the Japanese population is hungry for some sort of revitalization, some sort of change, and any new flavor that comes in, hey, let's try that one.
Let's try that one. And
this one looks pretty good to me.
They were not offered new flavors in the two by-elections, and people just didn't show up. Offer a new flavor, and you're talking about a new ball game.
Right. Let's talk, just to wrap this up, about Wakasa. He was the beneficiary here, wasn't he?
He was. And it looks as though all the LDP members who were online for either resign or you will be thrown out, that's not going to happen to them. Instead, the LDP is dealing with this issue that it's going to have members who are attracted to Koike. And it has to, at some point, it's probably going to have to deal with it in January, have some kind of litmus test. Are you with us or not?
Right.
And that's going to impact the relationships between local chapters and the national organization. The national organization doesn't really care about Koike that much. The local organizations do, because she stomped on the Tokyo local organization in order to present her candidacy. She's stomping on anybody that gets in her way, and there are politicians who are opportunists who see her as the new wind,
right,
and they're going to follow her, and that's going to be presenting a lot of problems to both of the major established parties.
Right. A lot of complicated mathematics going on here. Please stay tuned.